Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick, and today guys we're going to be jumping back down into the world of Bitcoin, taking a look at the most recent price action and what I would expect to happen next. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I do appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, stay up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. If you haven't yet joined us in Discord, why not check it out, linked in the description down below. It's a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there. So why not go ahead and check it out. Okay, let's jump right down into this one and take a look at what's been going on when it comes to Bitcoin. Kind of following on from yesterday's video, we are tracking a potential 5-wave structured move to the downside. Okay, this is a potential move. It's not something that has been cemented in yet, so we can still, of course, just rally on up as per our previous analysis, heading up towards 27 to 28,000. But it would be very irresponsible to ignore the structures that are starting to emerge here. So we should pay attention specifically to just this area and see how this kind of goes. And then what I'll do is I'll tag up the area that would actually confirm that we are in a 5-wave structure. Okay, so from yesterday, we were kind of talking about, this area down here. This is the one that we kind of hit originally. This was 22,600 to 22,969. And then we were scoping out a potential micro 5-wave structure that would be between 22,654 and 22,726, right in there. Now, if I zoom in here, quite a big, if we zoom right on in, right in here, you can see that this wick right here, hopefully you guys can see that, entered into this range. This basically means that we have completed a 5th wave structure to the downside. That is this little 5th wave right here. That is done. Okay, now, we haven't yet finished, I don't think, our actual bigger move. Okay, so that's going to be that mark, that wave 3 finishing there. Okay, this puts us into a wave 4 situation at the moment, and then we've got to come down into a 5th wave. Okay, that's kind of how we look at it. Now, from here, let's say this is overly complicated, but we're kind of getting progress made here. What we want to do is we want to kind of take a look at this entire wave 3, this bigger one. So if I go ahead and actually remove those, we end up with this. This is kind of the one that we're tracking. We can kind of see in here we have this wave 3. What we want to do is we want to know how much of this we've retraced upwards. Okay, so we take the wave 2, we take the wave 3 numbers here, the highs and the lows, and we can see that we would typically be looking at the 38.2% retracement right up here. This would be typically where your wave 4 would go. Okay, that would be 23,286. Okay. This structured move to the upside is interesting as well. It looks like what you want to kind of do this as a 5-wave. You want to go, hey, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're not trending down, but we actually are. And the reason for this is that we do not meet those requirements to the downside. And so if we were to go pull this up here, right in here, you can kind of see how we failed to kind of rally up here past the 1.618. We get it at this point, okay, but we don't get it at this point. So we have this kind of pull to the downside. So all in all, this doesn't give us that kind of idea that we are in some kind of 5-wave structured move to the upside. But we'll see how that kind of plays out, whether or not we push up slightly higher. The main number of invalidation, the number that if you want to be a bull in the market, the number that you're going to be wanting to kind of make sure that we push higher than is going to be 23,608. Okay, that number at the top there is the one that's going to tell us that we are categorically, not in a 5-wave structured move to the downside, because we have overlap within there. And we wouldn't have an overlap in structure with wave 4 and wave 1 under a wave 3 structure on a bigger scale. So we know that this would be a wave 3 structure taking us down, and therefore this overlap here would be a big flag to say, no, we're not doing 5 waves down. So knowing these things, if we go ahead and remove that, what we'll do is I'll say that we can be anywhere really, realistically, between 23,286 and that area there. I'm just going to put it a little bit lower, let's say 23,600 to be nice and neat about it. Okay, if I remove that, we kind of say that that could be our 4th wave movement. We can be anywhere in that box and we'll be okay. Now, the moves to the downside here, let's take the idea that maybe we've already topped out. It's possible that we haven't, but we'll take the idea that we have. And if we have already topped out here, how low are we likely to go? And for that, there's 2 options, really. Let me actually just snap that to the right wick. that one there. There's two options. Option one, we have a typical kind of wave 5 situation. If we go to the 1.236 to 1.618, that's actually going to be up here. So we'll talk about 22,400 to 22,602. Okay, you can see it right in there. That would be our typical kind of wave 5 based on that wave 4 situation. Now, the other option is you get an overextension, in which case you can't use the fib levels to kind of give you that guide. You're going to have to measure the movements inside this fifth wave. And what that will look like is it will look like we'd have some kind of really big kind of structured move like this, okay, and we'd have that overextension at the end. But again, you know, we won't know what's going to happen until those structures start to emerge. Now, the other issue that you have, the higher that we push with wave 4, say it comes up here, then the lower that you're going to end up going within our fifth wave structure as well. Okay, so bear those things in mind. Now, why do I talk about this? Why is all this important? I'm going to delete the fibs off for a second. All this is important because what we want to do is we want to know whether or not we are trending to the downside, right? And for this, we would need to know if this is a wave 1, this is a wave 2, then all of this would have to be a wave 3, would go up into wave 4 and then go into wave 5. However, this wave 3 has a minimum expectation of 1.618 times that of wave 1, okay? Wave 1 being up there. So it would mean that we would have to come down pretty deep. And the question is, would this little mini wave 5 actually meet those requirements? Because if it does not, then all we're doing is a zigzag pattern, and a zigzag pattern is not a trend. So we would be able to say, look, we still have our targets to the high side here, and all of this is just corrective, and it's fantastic. We're going to the moon. I wouldn't say that, but you kind of get the idea, right? We've got a little bit higher to push before we do have a correction to the downside. So when we kind of reflect on this and we kind of pull this back down, and we can kind of see that the 1.618 would be all the way down here at 22,013, which would mean that if we had a regular wave 5 situation over here, then we are not in a trend to the downside because we've yet to hit that trend threshold at 22,013. The only way to do this under the current structure at the moment would be for an overextension within that wave 5, where we do pull down and we hit that level. Okay, so lots of things to kind of be thinking about here, lots of things to kind of keep ourselves concerned with when it comes to the price action of BTC. As I said, at the moment, we did break our ranging market to the downside, but it hasn't really helped us because of the formation of this structure, know whether or not that $27,000 to $28,000 range is going to be the one that we're going for, or whether or not this is a part of an irregular flat correction all the way from over here with an A, B, C structure like this. Okay, and until we kind of get a way of confirming one way or the other, this is either just a zigzag to the downside, then we rally up, or we trend down, it's going to be that, technically speaking, both of these possibilities are true. So we want to be very, very cautious. I was hoping that just breaking out of the ranging market to the upside or to the downside was essentially going to kind of, tell us the path of Bitcoin. Unfortunately, the structure that's emerged hasn't really helped us narrow down the possibility of an upward move or a downward move. Okay, so still very inconclusive. So again, we do end up drawing our ranging market lines, one on the lower side at 21,351 and one on the higher side at 25,250. Okay, so we are looking for either early confirmation of a trend structure to the downside, in which case we can be predictive in saying that we will not pierce higher than 25,250, or we kind of fall short here, we zigzag it, and we can kind of say, okay, it's still not conclusive, but we have higher probability of the upside, or we breach down on the lower side and invalidate the idea of any potential move to the upside under that 5-wave structure, meaning it is an irregular flat and we don't have to worry about it. So unfortunately, we kind of find ourselves waiting, twiddling our thumbs over the weekend, just kind of hoping that we can kind of finally get a way of confirming the direction of the market so that we can then start trading again. Because at the moment, if you're trying to trade these structures, that to me, it's just gambling, because it doesn't really give you any clear indication as to which way the micro movements are likely to go. On a macro scale, I'm pretty confident that we're going to just slowly work our way down, but it doesn't really help us if we have to trade the market and we're looking for good entries and exits when we have the ability to go in both directions, and we are just kind of waiting here for the confirmation of the direction. So essentially, yeah, that's kind of where that sits at the moment. Now, from our stochastic RSI, our oscillator, we are high on the charts, so we would expect to see some kind of pull to the downside. And like I said, you know, our expectations are going to be that we finish this fifth wave structure off anyway, minimum being around that kind of $22,602 level, right? That would be kind of our minimum expectation at this point. So we do know there's going to be a small move to the downside here. It's just whether or not that plays into a bigger play on a larger scale. Now, from a 4-hour chart point of view, we got progression either direction. It really is in the middle here. We are basically have the ability to kind of rally up. We've got momentum to the upside, but we also have the ability to rally down or drop down as momentum can shift. From our 8-hour chart, plenty of room to the upside, which is fine. 12 hours the same, 16 hours the same, 20 hours the same, and the daily is just coming down, but can still go down a bit more. This does actually align quite nicely with finishing a fifth wave structure, because either way, we are looking for a rally upwards once we complete that fifth wave. So that's pretty much aligned to our thinking. Now, the reason that I would think a trend is something that is still very, very possible with that overextension is that the weekly is heavily overbought. So essentially, you know, we are looking at pulling down here. That wouldn't be unusual. We've got the momentum to do so, rallying up into a fourth wave. But, you know, I think if we were to drop down into a slight overextension, it would allow us to rally up slightly higher. And obviously give us the ability to kind of then think about whether or not we are in a trend or not. So I'm going to leave it there. There isn't terribly too much more to say today. I think we just need to give it a little bit more time. Let's see how it kind of plays out. Let's see how the fifth wave goes and whether or not it turns into an overextension or not. At the moment, it would look like it's just a zigzag if it falls within the typical kind of moves. If it does overextend, then trend to the downside at a larger scale. And that could obviously have bigger ramifications for BTC. If you found this video useful and informative, hit the like button. I do appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. If you haven't yet joined us in Discord, check it out, linked in the description below. And until the next one, guys, have a fantastic day.